Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the world. My name is Blackjack. Welcome back to the channel. Before I go over one of my personal deck techs again for you, I do want to mention something. As I've said in previous videos, I do eventually want this channel to become a format where people in the comments will leave deck ideas for me to build for them. So what I'm looking for is interesting commanders or themes, pet cards that you are not willing to negotiate on, and then budget, either restricted or unlimited, whatever you want to do. So please, in the comment below, leave something that you're looking to build, something interesting, and I would love to put it together and make a video about it for you. That being said, today we are going to talk about my 3-color life gain commander, Bilbo, Birthday Celebrant. So what he is trying to do is gain life. This is a deck that dirtles around, does not win the game quickly, tries to have a good time overall, has a little bit of thematic elements from Lord of the Rings, but not a ton. So let me get you started and let's turn you down. Again, this is Bilbo Birthday Celebrant. It's all about gaining life. I'm going to try to reduce how long these videos are taking, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker through the cards. That way you guys are not bored to death watching for 30 minutes straight. Enchantments, we do play a lot of creatures, so Guardian Project is great for us. Dawn of Hope is another way to draw cards. Whenever we gain life, we may pay 2 if we do draw a card. And then if we have extra mana laying around, we can make lifelink guys. Cleric class is one of multiple type of effects in this deck that will say if you gain life, you gain that much +1 instead. It's exactly what Bilbo reads, so it's essentially it's a second Bilbo. Phyrexian Arena, we have a lot of life in this deck, so I want to make use of that as a resource. And a Johnny's Welcome is yet again basically another Bilbo. Whenever a creature enters under our control, we gain a life. The instant package, we have Heroic Intervention, something for protection. It takes a lot of creatures to do anything of note in this deck to be dangerous. More often than not, they're little dirtly 1/1s and 1/2s that gain me a life when a creature enters. So it's important that they stay around into the end game to actually become useful and help us win. Mortality Spear, it is catch-all removal if we've gained life, which should be happening every turn. And then Swords to Plowshares. Next we have Artifacts. So Well of Lost Souls is a good engine piece that we've talked about on multiple videos in the past. Arcane Signet, a little bit of ramp. Obviously we have our Soul Rain and Felwar Stone as well. Aetherflux Reservoir, one of our main win conditions, being able to cast a spell and gain a life for each spell that's been cast, and then you can pay 50 to deal 50. So this is going to be one of the main win conditions that we use to actually get people out of the game. Bolus's Citadel goes fantastically with Aetherflux, but basically it just says you can look at the top card of your library at any time, and then you can play a land from the top and cast spells. And the cost of those spells is whatever the CMC is to your life total. We have a lot of life to play with, so a lot like Phyrexian Arena, we are using this as a resource. Alhemeret's Archive. It is a way to supplement our life gain as well as draw more cards. Probably synonymous with any sort of a life gain deck that you'd build in Commander these days. The sorcery package, so we do have some removal. I think the interesting part about this removal that I'd like to talk about is it has one of two effects. Either it's an effect like Kaya's Wrath or Fumigate, where when I'm wiping the board, I'm gaining life, so I'm getting overall advantage out of wiping the board in addition to just dealing with whatever needs to be dealt with. And then the other board wipes you'll see here, aside from Dam, which is just a catch-all removal piece, is this little combo of Dust to Dawn, Austere Command, and the Battle of Brywater. So all of these say destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. As we talked about, the majority of the creatures in this deck are derpy little 1/1s and 1/2s. So this is a way to deal with the big creatures on the board, but still keep all of our stuff alive going into the mid to end game to utilize them. This one gives us food. This one you are able to aftermath it back to return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So it's like a massive Eternal Witness. And then Austere Command allows us to also destroy artifacts or enchantments. We have Rampant Growth. This is the same ramp package I have in all of my 3-color decks that have green in them. As we already talked about, Soul Rain, Rampant Growth, Soul Rain, Felwar Stone, and Arcane Signet. And then 3 visits, Kodama's Reach, Cultivate, Farseek, Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth. In addition to that, in the creature section, you'll find a Sakura Tribe Elder. It's the same 10 pieces of ramp I play with any base green deck. Finally, we have Raise the Past. This is a way to get all of our little guys back onto the battlefield after they've been wiped away, because even though they are small, they will be mighty towards the end. And then Revival Revenge. Let's see if I can get it readable for you guys. You get to return a creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, so it's a one-off Sun Titan effect. And then we also get to cast the Revenge side that doubles our life total and target opponent loses half. So one card notably that I don't play in this section is Beacon of Immortality, which just is a one-off double your life total, shuffle it into your library. It's a great card, but I don't know. I mean, it just felt a little bit too obvious, a little bit too easy, in the same way that Felidar Sovereign, which wins you the game if it turns back to your turn and you have 40 or more life. Those felt a little bit too easy and a little bit too homogenized in life gain for me to be interested in playing them. So the main win condition, aside from the the artifact that shoots everything, the Aether Flux, I would say that's one of the main win conditions. And then the other main win condition would be activating Bilbo. So what Bilbo says is he's a 2/3. If you would gain a life, you gain that much +1 instead. And then we can pay 2 colorless, a white, black, and green, and tap and exile Bilbo. If we do that, we can search our library for any number of creatures and put them on the battlefield, and then shuffle. We can only activate this if we have 111 or more life. So the main idea of the deck is to play a bunch of these creatures and enchantments that incrementally gain us patches of life, eventually get to 111 or more, and then tap and sacrifice Bilbo, or exile him. He leaves the party, so that way the rest of the party can come. So we'll go get every creature we can. The main one that's allowing us to hit hard is Blossoming Bog Beast. So he's our version of Crater Hoof. Let me see if I can get him in frame to be readable. He says, whenever he attacks, you gain 2 life, and then creatures gain trample and get +X/+X, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn, and he's a 3/3. So we're going to go get all of our creatures with Bilbo, and then we're going to gain a ton of life. Unfortunately, I have no way as of right now to give these creatures all haste when they come in, but it is something that I would eventually look to add. And then the next turn, pretty much do anything to gain 1 patch of life, play a creature out of our hand, or utilize some sort of an artifact or enchantment. And even if we only gain 1, we're giving 25 creatures trample +1/+1 at worst. At best, it could be trample +10/+10, and it's just a one-shot kill. So that would be the ideal win condition. And then the second, or I guess the third, the backup. If you guys have been watching my videos, you know I like to have one infinite combo in pretty much all my decks. It's not something that I actively search for or try to accomplish, but it is a way to end the game if the game gets dragged out too long. So we have Heliod, the Sun Crowned, and we have Walking Ballista. Probably not going to show up great on camera, but it is a cool foil one from Fallout. So Walking Ballista is an XX that enters with X11 counters. You can pay for to put a counter on it, and then you can remove a counter to deal 1 damage to any target. Heliod, 3 mana 5/5. As long as your devotion to white's less than 5, it's not a creature. It's indestructible, and then whenever I gain life, I put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment I control. And then you can pay 1 and a white to give another creature lifelink till end of turn. So here's the combo. Walking Ballista is out on the field, and it's a 1/1 creature. You use Heliod, the 1 and a white, to give Walking Ballista lifelink until end of turn. So now Walking Ballista is a 1/1 with lifelink, right? And then if you remove a counter from Walking Ballista, you can deal a damage to one of the players, so they go to 39. Walking Ballista would die because it would become a 0/0 because you're removing the last counter. But since it has lifelink from Heliod and we're gaining life, we get to put a 1/1 counter on a creature or enchantment we control. So we can actually remove a counter to deal a damage. Since we dealt damage, we gain life. Since we gain life, we put a counter back on Walking Ballista. So we can infinitely deal damage because we're gaining life. So we can use that, again, to win the game, but it's not something that we're actively or often looking for. This is a way to just end the game if it's dragged out. Rest of the creature package, we have a ton of creatures that gain life. Suture Priest, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we gain one life. There's a few effects that say enter the battlefield under our control, but the best ones are the ones that say when any creature enters. So we play all of those, but just a couple specific ones that say we control. Beast Whisperers, card draw. Enduring Innocence, so another piece of card draw. Auriok Champion, whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we may gain 1 life. Archivist of Ogma allows us to gain life whenever an opponent searches and draw a card. Sorin has lifelink and extort, and then we can flip him in order to make foods and deal with stuff on the battlefield. Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, basically doubles all of our permanents that are triggering, and it prevents all of our opponents. So it's a great piece of hate for the table, but also is effectively gaining us double life, drawing us double cards with all of these creatures. Sun Titan, as you know if you watch my videos, I am a sucker for the M10 Giants, and this is a great deck for Sun Titan to come in and build advantage and slowly bring back all of these smaller creatures that you've seen us go over that are all very cheap. Sam, Loyal Attendant, and his buddy is here as well, Frodo. Both ways to gain advantage, gain life, make foods, draw cards, start the rain tempting. Just good advantage pieces that search for each other, so they're essentially 2-for-1s. The last piece of ramp, Sakura Tribuilder. Guide of Souls, new card, very nice. It comes in and we gain 1 life whenever another creature enters. When we attack, we can remove 3 energy, and then we put 2 1/1 counters on a creature, and they become an angel. So it's a good way to pump up my little guys and still gain life when creatures enter. Birds of Paradise. So this is an interesting talking point, at least for my channel. I've often mentioned that I'm not interested in playing 1 mana ramp in the form of creatures because I don't want them to die to board wipes. The reason I do it here is twofold. 1, Bilbo costs 3, so being able to get a 1-drop Celebrant out and then cast Bilbo on turn 2 is extremely powerful. And then 2, a lot of our board wipes, as you saw, will not wipe any creatures power 2 or less. So these guys get to last. And I obviously the third addition to that conversation would be we have a lot of creatures and a lot of ways to gain life and draw cards when creatures enter. So it's all the better for us to play this package here. Whereas I would not play something like this in most base green decks. Deathrite Shaman, the first ever 1-drop Planeswalker. If you know, you know. Llanowar Elves, Delighted Halfling, Elvish Mystic, Birds of Paradise, Avacyn's Pilgrim, and Gilded Goose. All ways to get Bilbo out on turn 2, which is the perfect start for this deck and what you often will be mulliganing for if you have to. So let's go over the rest of the creature package. We have a Sarah's Ascendant, 1-drop with 6/6 flying lifelink, hard to beat. The Gaffer, a way to draw cards. Celestine the Living Saint is essentially a Sun Titan for lifelink, so it was impossible not to put it in here for me. Soul's Attendant. Now we're getting to the point where whenever another creature enters, we gain 1 life, versus a creature enters for you. So these are the real good ones. Soul Attendant, Soul Warden, Essence Warden are the 3 best ones that not only when creatures you have enter, but when any creatures enter, you're able to gain life. Exemplar of Light. You've probably noticed the main theme right now is just gaining life and then utilizing that to also draw cards. I want pretty much all of my cards to do one of those 2 things. Grist, a little bit of removal and can make a creature every turn. Delny, super good, making all of our little guys unblockable and then doubling all of their triggers to gain life as well as draw. Mother of Runes, protection. Samwise, so another way for us to gain life, but this time it makes us food. And then Rock's Faith Mender is amazing in decks like this, basically doubling all of our life gain. And that is it. We'll get to the lands really quickly, as I do with all my 3-color decks. I have 9 basics. I just happen to have the Lord of the Rings basics. And then I'll just quickly show you the land package. Nothing in particular, just again cards I had in my trade binder and some stuff that I ordered to put this together. This is the newest deck I have built. I've only played it a few times. One game, I think the first game I played, I got out Bolas' Citadel as well as Aetherflux and just went absolutely bonkers and just shot everybody at the table for 50. It was insane. Vault of the Archangel is crazy good. You can use it as a combat trick to give your creatures Death Touch, or you can use it offensively to give your creatures lifelink for big swings. The Shire, a little bit of a call out to Lord of the Rings, as well as it does make a food. And I think the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. So again, this is a newer deck. I don't have a ton of notes about how it plays out so far, but I've wanted a life gain deck for a while, and nothing has really called to me quite like Bilbo. Just the fun of it and the ridiculousness of having 111 life and using that as your win condition. It's interesting, and it's not your everyday lifelink deck, which again, we talked about before. I always like playing stuff that's unique. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, Godspeed. Sub 20 minutes as well. Come on.